Hafa day, good evening, and thanks for tuning in to PNC's News First. We're live from the Broadcast Center at Conta. I'm Clint Ridgell.
And I'm Jolene Tovis. Topping our newscast today, senators voted to barely pass Bill 248 with a vote of 8-7, effectively raising the business privilege tax by 1% and creating a 2% sales tax that will take effect in October. Senators Frank Uggan Jr., Regine Bisco-Lee, Talina Nelson, Dennis Rodriguez Jr., Mike Nicholas, Therese Terlahi, and Mary Torres all voted no on the measure. The bill, as introduced by Senator Joe San-Augustine, originally would have created a 2% sales tax that would have begun in April. However, several amendments have changed the bill, and now instead the BPT will be increased from 4% to 5% immediately after enacted, and it will last until September 30th or the end of this fiscal year. It is estimated that this will generate about $30 million in revenue to help cover the $67 million shortfall. GUAM will have to cut $37 million in spending. Then at the beginning of the next fiscal year, or October 1st, a 2% sales tax will kick in. Governor Cavill has indicated previously that he will sign the bill into law.
Meanwhile, PNC took to the streets to ask members of the general public about their thoughts on the 1% increase to the business privilege tax and the 2% sales tax. Here's what people had to say.
I am in favor of a sales tax. I think that it's less burdening on everyone. I'd rather see that than people lose their jobs or pay cuts or 32-hour work weeks.
Albert Marquez has been on Guam for 40 years. All his children were raised here, and he thinks now is not a good time to raise taxes.
A lot of people are having two jobs. They're trying to meet ends, they live paycheck to paycheck. I think they should think more before they do that. It could be the last resort, maybe.
People have said that there's no fat to cut. Do you think there's fat to cut?
I think so. They're just gonna look around, look at the area that doesn't directly impact the people, especially the they shut down the fire department, they shut down the police station. Those are critical. Those are the direct impact to the people.
I would just prefer they enforce the traffic laws to generate the revenue needed, because you see all these red light runners. That's a lot of money you can collect. I'm not for a tax increase. That's really a last resort. A lot of people live in limited incomes, so it's not going to do them any good.
Do you think the government can do a better job of cutting expenses?
They should. They really should. They have to do a better job.
What we have now with the GRT, with all the exceptions and everybody that's exempt from paying it, wholesalers and all these people, in other words, it doesn't make it practical, and that is why we have a shortfall. If the GRT was even across the board and fair, it'd be more than enough. But the exceptions are what makes it bad. Now, we do need more money to come in, and I believe a sales tax, which is what all the small businesses are really doing right now. They charge you the 4%. In other words, they treat it like a sales tax. So let's make it a sales tax. Make it a 5% sales tax and drop the GRT down to 2%. The people with the exceptions keep their exceptions, and it's more fair across the board.
What do you think about increasing taxes, this proposal?
It's fine. The economy is going down. What can we do? I think it's legitimate.
You think the taxes are necessary?
Yep.
What do you think about this proposal that the senators will be voting on to create a 1% business privilege tax increase and a 2% sales tax?
I think it's pretty good. It's good for Guam, and Guam will benefit from it.
Why do you think it's good?
It's good because more money will be coming in.
My thought is that it's just too much increase. Power, water, and then all the tax goes up, and then we go to and shop and buy stuff. It goes up again by a certain percentage. So for the people that are middle income, it's going to be hard. Going to be hard. They should plan at this thing. They know that the president is trying to get a tax break, They should plan this ahead of time, not right now. Now they're putting the pressure on each other as an excuse. So I don't know. I'm really tired of this nonsense.
It's been said by the administration that there's no fat to cut or trim in GovGuam. Do you think there is fat to cut in GovGuam?
I'm pretty sure they really look at it, but I think it's a game of bluffing who's going to get what. I hope that those legislature can really think twice again, because how much more can you tax the people out here? Other than they should plan and cut them, their fats off first, and then show us first in good faith.
Instead, people like Marquez say they're getting ready to cut their personal budgets.
I guess the people, if that thing happen, they just kind of tighten their belt again, and their belt's already tight.
Again, shortly before news time, lawmakers passed the tax measure, and now it will head to the governor's office for his action. The governor has indicated previously that he will sign the bill into law.
It has been 1 week since GPD officers from the Hagåtña precinct were taken off the streets and put behind bars. But this is not a bad thing. As DOC Director Tony Lamarena says, the additional staffing is much needed. Here's more. Pulling police officers off the streets by shutting down an entire precinct can have several implications. But as GPD spokesperson Sergeant Paul Tapau has stated, doing so has not negatively impacted the department. Instead, it was a viable option, which has allowed for the realignment of the officers to the Department of Corrections. It has been 1 week since the Hagåtña GPD officers were reassigned to the prison compound. And according to the prison's director, Tony Lamarena, it has helped to cut back on costs during this time of financial despair. More specifically, the cost of overtime, which based on the 2018 budget was allotted at $940,000. As you may recall, the fiscal year budget began in October of 2017, and as of January 1st, Lamarena states that DepCorps has expended $500,000 in overtime. He attributes this to understaffing and the loss of 33 officers to attrition, forcing the remaining correctional officers to work 12-hour shifts with 5 days on duty and 2 days off. With a total of 37 GPD officers now staffing the Department of Corrections, the work schedules have switched to 12-hour shifts with 4 days on duty and 3 days off. According to Lamarena, this saves DepCorps 20% in overtime expenditures. The additional GPD officers has also allowed DOC to bring more correctional officers from the perimeter into the prison compound. Lamarena says now half the officers manning the perimeter, the visitor center, hub, and conducting transports are GPD officers. No GPD officers have been assigned to the prison's housing units. But even with the augmentation in staffing, the facility's money woes are far from over. As Lamarena points out, the reduction of their 28 budget by $3 million. That reduction, he says, is the reason the correctional facility is unable to pay for the medical costs provided by the GUAM Memorial Hospital. Reporting for PNC News, I'm Jolene Toves. You can read more online at PacificNewsCenter.com.
The National Guard and hazmat officials surrounded an Upper Tumon building this afternoon following a report of a suspicious envelope. PNC's Janela Carrera reports from the scene.
I'm here at the scene where a suspicious package was delivered to the SPPC offices at Eva Building in Upper Tumon. Some of the officials had already gone inside to investigate the package. Once they're done, they'll return, and behind me you can see they're setting up a decontamination area. Those officers who went inside and had some sort of contact with the package, they'll go into that area and decontaminate. Guam Fire Department spokesman Kevin Riley says the suspicious envelope was delivered to the 76 corporate office inside Eva Building in Upper Tumon just before noon today. Guam Homeland Security spokeswoman Jenna Blas.
Right now there are Guam Police Department, the Guam Fire Department Hazmat Unit, as well as the National Guard 94 CST, the Civil Support Team, are on the scene. The 94 CST along with Guam Fire Department Hazmat have just entered to do a joint assessment.
While authorities conducted an investigation, at least one ambulance was on scene with a stretcher that was placed outside on standby. But according to Riley, no injuries were reported. Do you know where the package from, where it was like a return address or anything like that?
So at this time, the details about the package are law enforcement sensitive, and it will be treated as an investigation.
Blas says only the second floor of the EVA building was evacuated, and a portion of the first floor was cordoned off.
Again, all of these suspicious packages are taken very seriously, and utilizing all of these different resources. If they see it as it's necessary, especially with the incident commander on scene, and then that's what all of these different resources are here for.
And the all clear was given at 5:09 p.m. When Simon Sanchez students were asked who was registered to vote, about 40 hands went up. The student government class sponsored a lieutenant gubernatorial forum this morning, and students heard from 3 of the 5 lieutenant gubernatorial candidates. Fielding the questions were Josh Tenorio, Alicia Limpiaco, and Fred Berdalia. The candidates were asked a host of questions, from what their favorite food was at a fiesta to what their thoughts were on Bill 204, which called for the construction, renovation of Simon Sanchez under a long-term leaseback, to how they deal with the current budget cuts and possible tax increases. But it was a question from the audience that led to replies that were most relevant to the students.
What do you think of our school right now? Does it look okay? Do we look happy?
In fact, when we were in the one of the government rooms, I could see basically the outside in between the wall and the ceiling. So I think it's certainly not. And as I said earlier, I think that there are ways to get this done faster, holding somebody accountable and empowering them to make the decision. And I think it is the superintendent giving them the opportunity to make sure everything is done fairly and standing by the decision and getting it done.
I have heard many of you testify and talk about, and that is that you live this every day. And those of us that don't go to school here, you're absolutely right, we don't live it. And that is why we are wanting you to continue to advocate and pursue and hold people accountable for what is happening with our school system.
Well, we understand what needs to be done. We understand that we need the leadership with an administration that the administration that Governor Gutierrez and I has been talking about, making sure that we remove some of this bureaucratic and favoritism among these businesses fighting, and it's pretty much people being favored to get some of these contracts. And it's unfair, and the ones who suffer is Simon Sanchez.
At the end of the forum, a straw poll was held among the students who got to vote digitally on who their favorite candidate was. Of the 3 candidates present, Lulian Guerrero's running partner, Josh Tenorio, came out on top.
The Superior Court of Guam has had a difficult time in appointing legal counsel to represent the 7 DOC detainees charged with murdering fellow detainee Manson Ernest. In court today, Superior Court Judge Anita Sokola remarked that she was, quote, reaching the bottom of the barrel, end quote, as another court-appointed attorney has withdrawn from the case, citing a conflict of interest. The attorney withdrawing represented Marvin Retcham and was appointed just yesterday. However, according to the attorney, Anthony Camacho, he has represented co-defendant Isler Miller in 3 separate cases. As a result, Judge Sokola said that she would now have to appoint a civil or domestic practice lawyer, as the list of criminal lawyers has been exhausted. She further stated that Retcham was the first defendant to assert his right to a speedy trial, making the task of appointing a lawyer to represent him pressing. As of today, Retcham will be represented by Patrick Seville. A follow-up hearing has been set for tomorrow to ensure there are no conflicts in his appointment.
With an increase in behavioral health issues among Guam's youth, social workers and practitioners are hoping to address this and other concerns within the community during its annual Social Work Regional Training Conference. The theme this year is Strengthening Human Security with Interdependence, Mutual Respect, and Social Care, or in Chamorro, Para uninala metgut, I seguridad, tenautaw nui inafa maulit, fina tautaw zen inadai. Dr. Keith Horanucci, who specializes in wellness through lifestyle and nutritional medicine, is one of the keynote speakers for this event. He says that in the 22 years he's been practicing on Guam, he's seen an increase in behavioral health issues among Guam's youth and in the adult population as well.
When I saw the title for the conference, I felt that I think I should participate just from my own personal experiences with my patients. My clinic is dealing with wellness and including a lot of children, where I thought that that might be a vulnerable group where their security might be at stake.
National Association of Social Work Chapter Representative Mike Acosta says the goal of the conference is for social workers and other stakeholders to collaborate on ways to improve the services provided and to identify those who would be better served by their purpose. And it's not just Guam. Acosta says they'll also be studying methods used throughout the world.
With the constant turmoil that's happening around the world, the Middle East, the refugee crisis in Rohingya refugees, the lack of sufficient adequate health care, the constant growing drug abuse in the communities. As social workers, it is our duty to gather together and collaborate and come up with ways and better solutions for the people, for the marginalized, for the oppressed, for those who are in need. And so the reason for this, the main point of this conference is to establish that.
The conference began today and continues Friday at the Western Resort Guam from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and ends on Sunday with an awards dinner. For more information about this conference, visit naswguam.org.
Well, food lovers have something to be excited about. The Tumon Sands Plaza will soon be home to two well-known U.S. restaurant franchises. The Olive Garden will be opening in the next year, bringing its famous breadsticks and modern-day Italian fare. The restaurant is being brought in by Apple Pacific, the group that backed Applebee's, IHOP, and Pieology. And Red Lobster will be opening up by the end of 2018. The chain is known for its Maine lobsters, Cheddar Bay biscuits, and its wood-fire grilling. Red Lobster will be brought in by Triple J Enterprises, which also owns and operates Outback Steakhouse.
All right, that's it for News First from all of us here at PNC. Thanks for watching. Stay maulig.
And have a great night.